I let the keyboard solo run this time. You guys were enjoying the keyboard solo. That was my trio. You can get that through, it's on Bandcamp. It's also, I think it's on my page at the Bitter End Blues. Just was one of the gigs during the COVID lockdown, or we did a really crazy gig where we had a line painted on the ground. We couldn't get that close from playing with a mask on. It was probably not one of my favorite gigs, but that was fun. And I will be playing once again at the Bitter End in New York City on December 11th. So that should be fun. I'll announce more of that. Thanks for everybody being here today. BV, as always, coming in last minute. I'm always so bad at getting an idea. And I'm going to ask you guys for some live feed ideas. Things that you'd like to hear me talk about. There's always a million things to talk about, and then I get overwhelmed with all the things that I could talk about. So if you have any ideas, please feel free to put them in the chat. I would really appreciate that. I love doing them. I want to keep them interesting, and I don't want, it can be kind of tricky coming up with ideas that you think people might be remotely interested in. That isn't the Rolling Stone Top 250. Some of the comments that people wrote afterwards were great. I don't think people listen sometimes at the top where I was like, this is just for fun. Who cares about Rolling Stone? Some people got really incensed. Pretty funny. But you know how that goes on the internet. So BV, thanks so much for doing this last minute. As always, I should announce it with more time. I have a masterclass coming up this weekend. It's called Blues Rock Riffage Masterclass. And in that masterclass, which is 25% off, you got the link on the side there. I'll talk about going to analyze some classic blues rock riffs. But there's a lot of similarities between them as we go through them. So you're like something, A Whole Lot of Love, and you think like Black Dog, and you compare these things and other kind of riffs. They have a lot of similarities. These riffs are kind of pentatonic based, tweaking the same kind of notes, kind of expanding on some of the chord ideas. So I'm going to give you some cool riffs, how you can build your own riffs, but also how you can pad out the chords and some riff ideas as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, bouncing off some students, and they were like, oh, this is really cool. So I think you'll enjoy it. That is going to be live this Saturday at 1 p.m. And if you cannot make it live, that's totally cool. You can catch it on the replay anytime you want once you enroll. So that is coming up. And I'm still offering, just because you guys have been really great, I got the Blues Rock Technique, Blues Rock Repeated Licks. That is still on sale, 50% off. That you guys have made that quite a successful course, and thank you so very, very much. All right, so today I'm going to probably get demonetized at some point for this, It's okay. I want to talk about some of my favorite random guitar records. And what I mean by random, okay, the first thing is really not records that might be generally thought of. Like everybody loves, Are You Experienced? That's pretty common record, things like that. So I want to talk about a few things that recently, or they may be not known to you, they may be popular to you, but I tried to choose things that were not hugely popular or a bit more fusion-y, or records that I just love, that I learned a lot from, and I just love listening to, where you hear just somebody really killing their stuff, doing really, really great. So I'm going to play a few examples through my iTunes. And let's see how, hopefully nobody shuts me down. So the first one, and this is an interesting record, is by a now passed away guitar player. His name is Chris Whitley. And Chris Whitley, I'm not sure what year Chris died, but this record's from 1995. He had a record called Living with the Law. That was his debut record. But the record that really got me was called Den of Ecstasy. And I actually knew Chris at the time. He was a really nice guy. I wouldn't say we were great friends, but we were friends. And he had a lot of unfortunate issues that led him to died of cancer early, but there were a lot of, I think, other deciding factors okay, let's check this out. This is a song called Never, and it's off of a record called Den of Ecstasy. It's super awesome. Here's some of this.
All that I dream mythologies of sensual men
some of this act. Great section coming up here. Get out. Second. Almost over. Okay, so yeah, Chris Whitley, and that's a song called Never. I pulled this out because one thing, this I actually got this from Chris, this pickup years ago. So he would play a National, I meant much of this stuff. This is an old 1932 National Duolian. And he would plug these in with a pickup. And so if you listen carefully in that recording, I highly recommend you get listen to that record. All of his stuff is really great. I think he was super creative. Every time I listen to him, I just love it. He's so great, so creative. I interviewed him for a few magazines. I interviewed him for Guitar Player. That's how we kind of became friends. And then I interviewed him for a magazine in New York at the time called the New York, what was it? It was a literary magazine. My wife owned it. I can't. That's the New York Hangover. That was it. And I interviewed Chris. I think that's still floating around. I've got a few tapes of those interviews that I've never made public. I think at some point I will. Pretty tragic story. He died of cancer. He had a lot of substance abuse issues. To be honest, like we hung out a bunch, and I've always been a teetotaler. And a few times hanging out, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, to be honest. Just kind of the people around him, and saw him in a bad way a few times. And that was kind of, I didn't carry through with the friendship because I wasn't a good place for me to be, if that makes sense. All right, so freaking genius, though. Super great guy. So he played just a little bit of history of him. I think you should definitely check him out. A National. The songs were always different tunings. He used pretty light strings on it, and he would design the songs around the tunings. So B.B. St. Chris was 45, died in 2005. Really sad video, documentary called Dust Radio. It's available on YouTube. And like I said, I don't want to sound wrong. He was a great guy. You guys understand. You've been around people that like this is not a great scene, and we've seen people self-destruct before, I think, at our ages. So I saw it, and I was like, I had been around that before in my life, and I knew it was time to get out of there. So anyway, lighter strings, usually like pretty light, and he would just tune. Like he didn't know what he was doing in the technical sense. He would just write songs. He would tune the guitar and just start writing stuff. And so the voicings are really crazy. his first record was much more pop. He was on like Leno and he was on a bunch of TV shows. And then he put out this record and the label was like, what is this? And they had a hard time with him because he just did what he want. Real true artist. Highly recommend you check out Chris Whitley. There's a great record called Dirt Floor where it's just solo acoustic. He recorded in a dirt floor in a barn. Great, like I said, great guy. He was super friendly. One interesting thing, I got this from Chris, this pickup. I didn't get this from Chris. I got this from our mutual friend Zeke at Matt Nunoff Guitars, where Chris would play slide guitar with his pinky and had this cutout slide, and he would turn it around this way. So he would play chords, right? And then he would somehow slip that around. Right? So cool. So that's one record I highly recommend. Chris Whitley, Den of Ecstasy. Anything of Chris's, I totally recommend you check out as well. All right. Hopefully people are digging this stuff. Okay, so next up. Let's see what we got. All right. I used to play at the 55 bar in New York City, and a guy named Wayne Krantz would play there all the time. And if you guys are not familiar with Wayne Krantz, this is a record called 2 Drink Minimum, and it was recorded from live gigs, just compiled. I think it was his chiropractor. He said it was in the front row, and he was just listening. He would record the gigs. So this is a tune called Whippersnapper. It's kind of long. I'm just going to jump to the solo. And it's Keith Carlock on drums and Tim LaFave on bass. So, called 2 Drink Minimum. So it's guitar Armageddon here. Check it out. The time of the drums. Time. It's so great. What's he doing? Okay. Holy. I mean, I know I'm like kind of like Rick Beato right now, like point up. But every time I hear that solo, I knew him at the time. I still know him. I haven't seen him in years. I would go see him all the time, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, every time I'm stunned by that guitar solo every time, and it was live. So that's from a record called Two Drink Minimum from 1995, and it's Wayne Krantz. It was recorded at the 55 Bar. I would play there every other Friday night, and he would play there every Thursday night. So I'd go see him play, and we'd hang out, and sometimes he'd come check us out. Keith Carlock on drums, who's now with Steely Dan, played with Robin Ford as well, and tons of other people. And Tim LaFave on bass. I did some stuff with... I'd done gigs with that rhythm section, but I never sounded like that good. So Tim was playing for a long time. He played on the Black Star record with Bowie, and he was also in the Tedeschi Trucks band for a while. And he plays with Mike Landau. He lives in LA now. So, man, I just got to say that is such a great record. And if you want to hear just out of this world guitar playing, and also the band, when I was kind of following, you go back and listen to it, the time, they're playing with the time, and then they hit that downbeat where he hits like a big kind of bluesy bend. You see me when I kind of went like that? All this tension gets built up, and the time is free. Well, it's not free, it's in time, but they're treating the time in a free way. And then they all know when to come in on that downbeat. And it's just magical. And like I said, I'm sure I'm going to get demonetized. I don't care about the money. I just don't want to get a copyright strike because I want you guys to hear this stuff. This is... Whenever I kind of, people ask me, like, what do you do for inspiration when you get, I just listen to that and go, oh my God, like I've got so far to go. And it's okay. It's like, what I mean, so far to go. That exists. And that is, he's a genius, I think. I don't throw that word around. As a guitar player, he's one of the most original guitar players out there. So check out Wayne Krantz. I can't listen to the stuff for a really long time. It gets a little too cerebral for me, just being honest. Going to see it live, I like that better than a full record of it. And I'm just, because I like, not every song's like that. I just lean towards other stuff that's maybe a little simpler at times. But if you want to get your butt kicked with some really insane stuff, and you go check out Wayne, he's got stuff online. So Wayne Krantz, that's Two Drink Minimum, and that song is called Whippersnapper, which is just absolutely insane, as you can tell. All right. So, what should I do next? I am going to... Is he on here? My friend Jason Laughlin. You guys should be familiar with his record called Peach Crate. So let's check out Jason. This is my good friend Jason Laughlin. Please go follow Jason Laughlin's YouTube page. That is my good friend who's been on who's joined me here a bunch of times, Jason Laughlin, and that is his record Peach Crate. So what I think is so amazing about that is, first of all, it's something I don't do, and I'm just such a big fan of music and guitar particularly, that when I hear something like that, I'm like, wow, I can't do that. And the appreciation of just like the previous Wayne Krantz thing, how much stuff there is in the guitar, which can be really kind of annoying because I want to be able to do it all. But I can't. And that's a perfect example of you can't do what Wayne Krantz is doing and do this, and do what everybody does individually. So that's Jason's record Peach Crate. And he came out a little while ago. It was 2011. I know he's working on some new stuff. So definitely go over and BB put a link to Jason's teaching site. He's got a lot of great Two Fire courses. He's got a lot of great courses where he teaches that kind of music. Totally fun. Totally. Hey, Jason, your music's fun. Are you guys digging this? I'm seeing how many people are on. I know this is definitely a hang for some people. Like listen to some of these tunes. It's not like talking about gear. All right. So what do I have next that I think is something you may not listen to that much? Okay, we're gonna check out one of my favorite guitar players of all time, Scott Henderson. And there's a record that he did called Tore Down House. You guys might know that. And there's a tune, particularly the first one, called Dolomite. And I just want you to check out this. I'm going to jump to the guitar solo. All of his records are great. The guy's absolutely astounding. And here we go. Let me get to this solo. It's a blues. That phrasing. Now, in the build, still kind of traditional, but you know something's coming. Check it out. One more time. There you go. That's Scott Henderson. I've known Scott for many years. We're friends. I've taught with him a few times. Like 20 something years, something like that. I don't know. And I'm making the stank face, right? Because there's some crazy stuff there. What's great about that tune, and I'll do like a little guitar quick thought here. Right? Just blues, and you go to a 4 chord. Now for his 5 chord, 7 to 5 is flat 7. That's right. One more time. Let me record that. Just kind of show you something really cool. So 2, 3, 4. I thought I recorded that. I didn't. I didn't record that. It's alive. Hold on. I'll do it one more time. Four chord. Back to 1. Flat 7. 5, 4, 1, 5. So. It was my first introduction in that song to the scale called Lydian Flat 7. And that flat 7 chord, I'm playing a G Lydian Flat 7. So it's pretty cool that he's basically playing blues, and then he starts to throw in some of these ideas. And there's guys like Robin, who we can get to, and then there's guys like Scott Henderson, who is definitely a more fusion-y guy. Now, I definitely recommend you check out some other stuff. I'm going to put on a bit more of his fusion stuff in a minute. It's a huge influence on me since the first Tribal Tech record. The first one, I think, is Dr. He. It's a great, ridiculous record. But there's a line in here. That kind of thing, where it's this big, diminished Lydian Flat 7 lick thing, which is a real eye-opener at one point for me. And for a lot of people, so Scott Henderson, can't recommend him enough. So while we're on Scott Henderson, that was a tune called Dolomite, and that is on the Tore Down House record. That whole record's just ridiculous. So, all right, let me pull this other thing, that other kind of Scott Henderson stuff. Hold on. Where's the record? That's not the one. Hold on. Now it's up to this one. Now listen how he builds out. The band starts laying down the groove, right? Pretty cool, right? Now, that's Tribal Tech. That's the band that he started off with, and that's Gary Willis on bass. So all the Tribal Tech stuff is just really cool. And, it's the epitome of the F word, which is fusion, for lack of a better word. Which gets a bad rap. People think, I think especially since there was a lot of really bad fusion. Remember, easy listening or easy jazz, smooth jazz kind of ruined some of those sounds to me, All right. So, great records. Scott Henderson highly recommends. So let's dig into some rock stuff. Some rock. Michael Schenker, UFO, Strangers in the Night. The song called This Kid's. I'm just going to jump to the guitar solo. Whole record, one of the most influential records for me. Growing up, still to this day, I listen to Michael Schenker daily, almost daily, and this is great. So check him out. All right, so. The whole record is just great. I'm seeing it's actually a live studio recording apparently. So it's a live record. And a lot of those live records were not live. Kiss Alive and all that. That was all recorded, re-recorded and everything because, it was live. So sometimes they're great, sometimes they weren't. But what I love about that record, it feels really live. Schenker makes some, mistakes and it's so great. His pacing, his phrasing, his intensity when he plays, the vibrato, he's deceivingly difficult. Obviously, that's difficult to play, but you know what I mean. He's got these more pentatonic chops, similar to the ones I have in my course of repeated blues rock pentatonic licks. A lot of those kind of licks I got from him. And just, you can hear how he builds a solo. There's a beautiful phrasing that he has. It just locks into the groove. So for me, a great introduction. If you're not used to Schenker, and a lot of the Schenker stuff in the 90s, I think the quality of the music went up and down as I think some of his well-known addiction problems were. And some of those records I don't really love because, it's just there's a period of time. I think his newer stuff is actually pretty good. He still plays great. But if you want like great 70s blues rock, UFO and this record in particular, studio records are really great, but for me, it's always this live record. And there's a great re-release that's expanded and it's really, really, really killer. It's great stuff. I saw the reunion with my friend Angus Clark. I saw the reunion of UFO when they toured on that Walk on Water record. And Schenker is just ridiculous on that tour. You can find some of those videos floating around from that period. He's always ridiculous. He always does something that just kicks my butt and goes, damn it, how does he do it? Like, he's one of those guys where sometimes it's familiar, but it's not. And he's underrated, I think, especially in the States. A lot of guys are really influenced by him, not just me, other people. And he never was as big in the States as they were in Europe. So I think some people kind of missed on him a little bit. All right, any questions, anyone? I got a few more. Is this fun? I know I don't have my same amount of viewers, but I'm having fun. Any questions so far on any of this stuff? Or you just want to hear some more stuff? You digging it? Let's see what happens. Yes, and he's using his number 2 Flying V. What was interesting is I got a Flying V finally. I haven't really done any videos with it yet. And some of the things that he was doing, once you get a V, you're like, oh, of course, that's so much easier when you have a Flying V. All right. Next up, we can check out. All right, let's do this. My buddy, David Grissom.
1, 2, 3.
Listen to that feel. So laid back. Like shuffle too. So before we get to that guitar solo coming up, just when you hear, that's David Grissom. That's a song called Butterbean Friday off of his record called 10,000 Feet. As you guys know, David's one of my good friends, but he's one of my favorite guitar players. He's been one of my favorite guitar players before he was my friend. And Grissom liked him because it is David Grissom. It is David Grissom. Did you feel how laid back that groove is? But if you just check out that melody again, listen to how relaxed his feel is. It's almost kind of behind the beat, but it's not. It's just, check it out. You feel that? Did you see what I'm saying? That is so hard to do. He always plays like that. Like, it's so amazing. His feel. I mean, his tone and all that is just amazing. I'm sitting there holding one of his guitars. He's one of those kind of guys who, when we've played together and he just plays one of my guitars and sounds exactly like him. No matter what he's playing through, it's ridiculous. But just how laid back he can play. And it just sits so well. I don't know if you guys are picking up on that. So that's a tune called Butterbean Friday. Let's get to some of the solo. It's long, but you know. Space. back into it. So it's so original sounding. And the coolest thing about, I think I've told this story, if you listen to any modern country or alt Americana stuff, and David was living in or working a lot in Nashville in, I guess, the thousands and maybe 90s, probably thousands. Not sure exactly. Yeah, early thousands, early 2000s. You would hear everybody sounded like him. He would do a lot of the sessions. I remember calling him up one day. I'm like, is this you on this tune? He's like, nope. So pretty influential guitar player, especially in that Americana guitar stuff. And for me, he's just, nobody sounds like him. Always sounds amazing. A lot of that kind of Billy Gibbons, mixing some of those open string ideas together, which I know he's got from Billy and then took it into his own direction. So I highly recommend Butterbean Friday and anything by David Grissom, any of his solo records. Just great. That tune in particular, I just love the feel on it. Really crazy, great. Crazy, crazy, great. I don't have Spotify. I guess I could do something. But I usually just, I'm on Apple Music because everything I've got is Apple. It just kind of makes everything easier. I think I could try to put on Spotify. I don't even know how to do that. Okay. Let's do a few more and I'll answer some questions if there are any. I know I'm just kind of playing and stuff at you, but it seems like you guys are digging it. There's always people that we're all going to love. I mean, somebody just mentioned Dan Huff. Sure, like that Giant record when I was younger. He's amazing. Somebody mentioned Roy Buchanan. Yeah, I'm just talking about records for me that I love. This is just a sampling. I'm just trying to think of things that you might not know. Something that's not that common. Like there's all those classic records that everybody knows. Like I could talk about, hey, we can go, we could listen to Hendrix or Van Halen, all those records that everybody knows. And these are some of the names that you might know, but maybe not that familiar with, like Scott Henderson or David Grissom. So Michael Landau is another favorite of mine. And he put out a record not that long ago, 2020, it's called, Liquid Quartet Live. And every Landau record I really like, especially the live ones and the past few studio ones. The ones from the 90s are great. They're very produced of that era, if that makes sense. Really cool tunes, but lots of reverbs and LA and chorusy, big lush guitars and great tunes. But I like it when he does the stuff a little more stripped down. He is one of my absolute favorite guitar players. I've met him a bunch of times and hung out, and he's a super cool guy. So this is a tune that was originally done on a record with Robin Ford called Renegade Creation. I think it was on Bullet. It's called Greedy Life Blues. I'm just going to jump to the solo. And Matt Schofield and I were talking about how ridiculous this solo is. So this is off of Liquid Quartet Live, came out in 2020 at the Baked Potato. So let me get to this guitar solo. Hold on to get to that.
Together we will say, you don't even think to hide your greedy life, and you won't lose a win trying to hide your greedy life.
The control he has over the guitar is astounding. band too. And keep it going.
So keep your eye on nothing.
Yeah, ridiculous. What I love about Landau, that's Michael Landau. He's one of those guitar players like Tim Pierce and Steve Lukather, guys that you've heard on a ton of records, but you didn't realize it was them. Like the guitar solo for "Oh Sherry," the old Steve Perry tune. That was him, and he's on a lot of other things too. Definitely one of my favorite guitar players. I have a few of his guitars, but I don't, like we talked about before, we have the same taste in guitars. So the thing about Landau is you notice how he built the solo, very unpredictable, and I love that quality about Jeff Beck as well. Like, he's definitely improvising, and it's very free, and you can tell. I know he's got some things that we all do. Like, he's got some stuff that he does those are Landau ideas. It's his style, but you can never really predict what he's gonna do. And if you noticed, he's got great chops, but he doesn't have, say, like those Scott Henderson chops or Wayne Krantz chops that we heard earlier, like just crazy, insane facility on the instrument, or like an Yngwie Malmsteen. But he doesn't need to. He does have great chops, don't get me wrong. He does. But you see how he built that. And he's one of those guys, like Jeff Beck, for me, that when technique was all the rage, and I've got good technique. I worked really hard on it for sure. But I was always like, oh man, I should be able to shred and all that. And then I was like, listening to guys like him and Beck and go, oh, well, those guys don't shred, but it's just as exciting and maybe even more so. Because when guys like Wayne Krantz and Scott Henderson exist, when they can do all that and be out there and just take you on this crazy trip like that, and Robin at times too has got tons of chops, especially more so back in the day when he worked more on it. We've talked about that. Like, he's just like, yeah, I was really into working on that. Still got great chops, but back in the 90s, he was, working on playing faster and all those things. So for me, Mike Landau is one of the most tasteful players, one of the most original sounding guys. You hear some Hendrix in there for sure. Tips that to Hendrix and Jeff Beck, but his own thing, as I think you heard pretty clearly on that recording. So yeah, any Mike Landau, there's Live 2000, there's Mike Landau Group Live, there's any of the live stuff is just ridiculous. It's just so great to hear him, to me, in his element. That is my favorite thing to hear him. In the studio, it's really great too. He plays with James Taylor. He's just master of parts. A friend of mine is James Taylor's engineer, producer guy, named Dave O'Donnell. And one day I had a studio before I was working out of my house. I had a studio in Manhattan, like a little closet. I mean, like, it looked like in video. You couldn't see, like, I could touch both the walls, and I was paying God knows how much a month to do that. It was at the power station. No, it was at the power station. Was it power station? I can't remember. Yeah, power station. What was the power station? And the record plant. Excuse me, the record plant. I forget, because it wasn't there anymore. But there was a lot of rooms for recording guys, and he was there. This guy named Dave O'Donnell, a Grammy-winning guy. He's like, "Hey, come here, help me choose some guitar parts for Landau on this new James Taylor record." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do you think of this?" So he just sent all these. I could hear all these things that he didn't use. He's like, "What do you think of this?" He was just brought me there for fun, of course, and it was pretty amazing. And it also reminds me of the day. It's a great story. I was up in upstate New York visiting my mother-in-law, who was, older at the time, living in a assisted living. And it was like a Saturday, and it was about 95 degrees in her place, and the television was on 11. We all, with elderly parents and stuff, understand that. And my friend calls me up and says, "Hey man, where are you?" That's the guy, Dave. And I'm like, I'm in why? He goes, well, I'm at your door with James Taylor and we're going to go get some dinner and I want you to come with us because I told him you'd like your guitar playing. And I'm like, it was the scream that you could hear around the world that I missed a dinner with James Taylor because I was in my mother-in-law's house. Yeah, so that's a kind of a funny story, I thought. I still laugh about it and cry at the same time. Maybe wouldn't have led anywhere or anything like that, but still, dinner with James Taylor. Yeah. All right, let's do one more. What else do I want? Okie dokie. I'm sticking more rock, but all right. Let's check out this one. It was Robin Ford, The Blue Line, Misdirected Blues.
Baby used to want me, now she says it's time to go. She needs some adventure, then she needs a brand new show. And out on the day-to-day can get anybody down. You don't have to run off with the first new thing you found. You just sing it, babe. You need my love, yeah, yeah. You might just be misdirected. You that I'm thinking of. Baby used to want me, now she treats me like yesterday's news. She brought the dog dinner and she brought me my walking shoe. Is that any way to treat the best friend you ever had? Just to get your kicks, you gotta make me feel so bad, and it just ain't it, babe. What you need is my love. You might just be misdirected, but it's you
Guitar
that
solo.
I'm thinking of.
Okay, so yeah, that's off of the record Mystic Mile, which is not, it's not on iTunes, it's not on Spotify, I believe. I think it's on like Pandora, and it's for some reason those contractual things, it's not there. But they did release a live record from that period. Robin was like, yeah, some guy found some live recordings that we did back at Yoshi's in the 90s with the Blue Line. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I think we're going to put it out. I'm like, put that out. That is a ridiculous record. I highly recommend that one. And you can find this on YouTube. People have put up this record, Mystic Mile. That's called Misdirected Blues. And there's a line in there that is, I just was pointing out. One of my favorite lines from him, I learned at one point, and I want to go back over it. Maybe I could do a video on that line. I know other guys on YouTube have, but I haven't. And that Scott Henderson tune, that crazy line I did there. But that's a record that was really big for me. What year did that come out? I wrote these down. 1993. So his Talk to Your Daughter was the first one I had heard, like probably many of us. But the one I love that record, of course. But his playing on these records, this is when he was completely on fire. Matt Schofield and I've talked about this a lot. Like, I saw the Blue Line back then twice, I think, or three times. Yeah. The China Club and the Bottom Line and the Bottom Line. Yeah. So I saw him a few times. So it was really great, really astounding. So there's some really great stuff from that period. That live record is really He was just a different band. He said that was his best band. That was his cream. I think he called it that. It was a really great group of guys. And just that record is all the Blue Line records. There's the Rugged Road, or I think that's the song. I can't remember the name of the record, with Chevrolet on it. Some really amazing stuff. All right, and I'll do one more. I'm running along today, if you guys don't mind. Is my buddy. You always need to shout out Matt Schofield.
Could you want me? Do you care? Is it my imagination?
My dog barking too.
Or is the feeling really there? Could you need me? Is it true? I know it's love I'm feeling, but I don't know about
He always writes tunes with change with
all the
different.
words that you say, do they mean a thing? Or
I really like about Matt's tunes.
what I wanna hear? What I wanna hear, yeah. Should I
Jump to the solo. Here we go. Sorry, Matt. Here we go.
need a thing, or is it just what
I was gonna have him on the show today, but he's on a plane.
I wanna hear? What I wanna hear. Maybe I'm missing.
Yeah, so that's Matt Schofield from Heads, Tails, and Aces, and the tune called What I Want to Hear. It's a while ago. What year is that record from? I think, let me go to the record. Schwalben Library. That is from 2009. So just a babe back then. But man, what phrasing, right? It's so relaxed and smooth. So you could hear some of the threads going through a lot of the things that I've hopefully, maybe some of the stuff you knew. I knew, obviously, you guys knew some of the Robin stuff. And yes, for sure, I know all the Yellow Jackets and everything like that. I know everything pretty much Robin's ever done. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There's so many guitar players that are great. And these are records that I really enjoyed listening to. Like, I first discovered Matt around that period. It was long before we were friends. I was like, wow, this guy's really freaking good. And there's just something about I chose players that, for me, there's something about them that I come back to, that I find inspiring. And I've got a lot of other, there's lots of great guitar players out there, but in names I'm not going to mention, who I'm like, that guy's a great guitar player. He's freaking amazing. Just doesn't move me, So these are some guys I wanted to bring to maybe your attention if you didn't know. And if you did, just some of my influences that I really wanted to, that worked for me. So once again, there's Wayne Krantz. There's a tune called Whippersnapper. That first one he did from Two Drink Minimum. Ridiculous. Absolutely crazy. Chris Whitley. Totally different thing. Definitely more songwriter, but the guitar parts, really brilliant guitar player, songwriter, and lyricist. So he was the full package. Not a soloist, but who cares? Just such great songs. UFO, Strangers in the Night. That tune I played was called This Kids. Misdirected Blues from Robin Ford. That was off of the Blue Line. Dolomite by Scott Henderson. And that would be certainly a great record to listen to. It's called Tore Down House, and another record after that period called Dog Party. Annie Scott Henderson. His newer records are definitely more fusion-y. He got away from doing some more of the bluesy stuff, and now he's doing some of these more fusion-heavy stuff, which is crazy and amazing as well. Tribal Tech, absolutely love it. Very fusion-y. It's kind of stuff I listen to. My wife's like, ugh. You know, what is that? What are you listening to? You know, because it's, you know. It's like records I didn't get on here today because I could go on forever. This Alan Haldsworth IOU, that's another big record for me. Peach Crate by Jason Laughlin. Definitely check out Jason. I want to throw a good friend in there as well. Greedy Life by Michael Landau. That was one of the ones I mentioned. That is off of the Liquid Quartet Live. Any of Michael Landau, to me especially the live stuff and his instrumental records. His earlier records, aside from the 90s, they're great. They're great. The live ones for me are where the full fire is. Like he's just going for it, and that's what he sounds like live. If he's playing around anywhere, if you're living in Dallas, there's a gig with Eric Johnson and Michael Landau. They're doing something together. So definitely go see that if you live in Dallas. I would love to go see that show. That'd be pretty awesome. So are any questions? Somebody you know is meeting with Robin in London this week. Now that he's moved there. Yeah. I just talked to him. I texted him a picture of my new pedal board coming together earlier. James, I felt a disturbance in the force when you missed that dinner. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, and BB, right? Yeah. A career moment lost in the wind. That was one of those things like, when does that happen? When does it happen? When does somebody say like, oh, James Taylor's here, wants to have dinner with you? You know, come on. Never happens. And that, of course, I missed it. I've had some pretty good breaks, but that would have been a nice one. Where could that have gone? I mean, not that I would have replaced Michael Landau, but you know, if somebody knows you exist, I'm like, oh, what's your friend Jeff doing? That's how those things work, you know. But you know, if his band is Jimmy Johnson, Michael Landau, and Steve Gadd, I don't think I'm on the first call list for that. He's like, oh, played in some bands and it's friends of yours, does a YouTube thing, teaches a lot. Yeah, let's call him. As opposed to, you know, I'm not saying I couldn't do the gig. I would work really hard and practice my butt off. But, you know, yeah, Alan Halsworth's Metal Fatigue, that, yeah, for sure. There's so many records. I just wanted to throw out a few and see what you guys thought. And you know, down below, you could definitely put stuff that influenced you guys. There's so many. I could do this all night and have a great time with it. And then, you know, like I said, I'm very curious to see what my YouTube thing, your video has been demonetized, which is great. I don't care. Give these guys money, however much money you get from 2,000 plays on YouTube, which ain't nothing. You know, people are like, oh man, you know, how's the YouTube thing going? Audience is great, but you can't live off of money that you make from YouTube with what I'm doing. So that's why, if you enjoy the channel, you can always like and subscribe, but also the courses that I have available. How's that? The Blues Rock Riffage Masterclass coming up this weekend, 25% off. You can't make it live. You can always watch it on the rerun anytime you want. In all my courses, I got a bunch listed there, half off on the Blues Rock Repeated Licks, which been going great. I think that's a cool course, especially if you dig on some of the stuff we did here, listen to here. You can hear a lot of those lines. Maybe not from Wayne Krantz, but definitely Landau and certainly Michael Schenker and all those guys. All right, so I hope you guys had fun hanging out, listening to some of my favorite records that aren't the obvious ones. Maybe some names that you're familiar with, but hopefully I turned you on to some guitar players that you might dig. All these guys are really pretty amazing. Email in that pedalboard picture. I might have some ideas. Well, let me talk about that for a second. My friend over at 30th Street Guitars, my friend Jimmy Archie, is putting together, he makes professional pedal boards. We're doing that. Mono sent me some stuff, sent me a pedal board. So I'm doing it in conjunction with Mono with their power supply. Mason from Vertex, I'm having lunch with him tomorrow. We got his interface. And pretty well laid out. I've plugged it in, sounded it all out. It's all on a big mess on the floor right over there, and it's doing great. It's going to be a pedal board that I can do wet, dry, or mono or stereo out of, which is going to be cool. The wet, dry, wet I will never do because I'm not bringing 3 amps to a gig. Stereo probably will never do because then you're bringing 3 amps to a gig. Wet dry maybe, but if your sound guy's really good, so he would know what wet dry would mean. And so I'll probably just end up running mono most of the time. But it's nice to have the options, especially when I'm sitting at home. I've got 2 amps and I could run wet dry, or I could do that pedal show sort of dual mono, one's wet, one's dry. There's a lot of options. But oftentimes you don't have much of a sound check and it's really difficult to do that stuff. Excuse me. So something that made me want to talk about one thing here. Excuse me. Oh yeah, there's a great version of the this Kids on the UFO official bootleg box set. Yeah, they put out a box set. There's so many great. They've released a lot. If you're into UFO, a lot of those records, a lot of bootlegs from that period. Sometimes the recording quality is not that great, but he's just so great. For me, just one of the most solid, killer blues rock guitar players. I can listen to Michael Schenker all the time, and he can shred too. Like when he got a little heavier, he really cut loose. Favorite Schenker record is probably, maybe I'll do my favorite Schenker records. My favorite Schenker record is Assault Attack. That one with Graham Bonnet on it is amazing. Certainly Into the Arena, any of those golden periods, but I saw him play not that long ago and he was absolutely ridiculous and how good he sounded on the last tour. And also, guys, any ideas for live streams, any course ideas you might be interested in? I'm happy to try to, try to oblige as best as possible. All right, cool. Any final questions? Nice DGT. Yeah, I like this. Is my favorite PRS I've ever played. Oh, some interesting news. I am going to PRS next week, so I may or may not be here. I'm not sure. I got to find out when. I'm going with my friends at Watchtower Guitars, and we are going to co-design a run of the Masterbuilt, or I forget what they call them. I never remember. The fancy ones. What's the name? I'm just being an idiot. I should remember. I keep on saying Masterbuilt. It's not Masterbuilt. What does PRS call those? BV, help me out. I'm being an idiot right now. So we're going to design some things that I think I want in a PRS. Things that I love after playing a bunch of them, having owned a few from them. And we're gonna do a run. Brazilian boards, mahogany necks, all sorts of things like that, all sorts of cool stuff. So private stock. Thank you, Michael Cope. Private stock. Thank you, BB. Yes, it's a private stock. And it's funny, my kids ring in the front door because he lost his key, and then I made a set of keys for him, and he didn't take them. So he's gonna have to stand out there for a couple minutes. This is a wood library. DGT that I got used from Watchtower, and it's amazing. So some of these ideas are coming from this. I really like this layout. It's pretty great. And the Czech Republic dates I'll announce those next year. Well, I'm going to announce them soon. They're for 2024 in September, starting September 9th. And then for a good 2.5 weeks, maybe some stuff in Italy. If my friend Hermano, we can figure some stuff to do after that. So I might extend that as well. So yes, wood library. So I'll let you know, we're going to document being at PRS and choosing some of the tops and stuff. So I'm looking forward to be a lot of fun, and that should be totally cool because there's things about the guitars I'm like, if I could just have this, if I could just have that, that would be great. So, all right. Thanks so much, everyone. I appreciate it. I will see you next time. BB, thanks so much. I appreciate all your help, as always, and my last minuteness. And I will see you guys on the next one. Maybe next week. I forget what our schedule is for PRS. It's the 15th, I think I'm going, but I got to stay overnight, blah, blah, blah. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks.